Welcome to Mind Lantern Stories. Today, we'll travel into a story about something most people try to escape. Waiting. Waiting for the rain to stop. Waiting for dreams to come true. Waiting for love, for peace, for clarity. But what if waiting itself is a gift? This is the gift of waiting. A story about patience, surrender, and the silent wisdom that time carries within its arms. They said, she had the gentlest hands in the village, hands that shaped clay as if whispering to the earth. Her name was Aya, a young potter who lived in a quiet valley surrounded by golden fields. Every morning, she would kneel before her spinning wheel, her fingers dancing with the mud, turning formless earth into delicate shapes of life. But lately, her hands trembled. No matter how hard she tried, her pots cracked, her vases collapsed, her bowls lost their balance. She grew impatient, not with the clay, but with herself, because no matter how much she practiced, nothing seemed to change. One morning, after her 10th failure in a row, Aya threw a lump of clay across the room and whispered, "Why do you keep breaking?" A gentle voice replied, not from anyone nearby, but from deep within her mind. Perhaps it's not the clay that needs to change, but the one shaping it. Aya froze. She looked around. Only silence. The wind brushed against the open window, carrying the scent of rain. Outside, the clouds were gathering, heavy and gray, the kind that made the world hold its breath. So she did the only thing she could. She waited. The storm lasted for 3 days. Rain poured endlessly, washing the valley clean, turning the dirt path into a river of mud. Aya sat in her small hut, watching her unfinished pots glisten with drops of water leaking from the roof. Each moment stretched like eternity. At first, she fidgeted. Then she sighed. Then she grew still. For the first time in her life, she wasn't shaping anything. She was simply being. On the 4th morning, the rain stopped. The valley shimmered, every leaf alive with light. Aya stepped outside barefoot and felt the wet earth cling to her toes. It was soft, cool, humble, the same clay she had cursed days ago. She knelt down, pressed her palms against the mud, and felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. Not to anyone in particular, but to the moment itself. When she returned to her wheel, her hands moved slower, gentler. She no longer tried to force the clay into perfection. She simply waited for it to take shape. Hours passed like seconds, and when she finally lifted her hands, before her stood the most beautiful pot she had ever made. Simple, steady, alive. It was not flawless, but it was honest. Days turned into weeks. Aya's workshop slowly filled again, not just with pots and vases, but with peace. People from nearby villages began visiting her, drawn not by the perfection of her work, but by the feeling her creations carried, as if each piece whispered, "I was made by hands that know how to wait." One evening, as the sun melted behind the hills, an old monk appeared at her door. He carried no staff, no bowl, only a quiet smile. "I've heard," he said softly, "that you've learned the art of patience." Aya bowed and replied, "I'm not sure I've learned it, master. I only stopped fighting time." The monk chuckled, "Then perhaps you've already learned more than most." He sat by her wheel, watching her shape the clay in silence. Minutes passed. Neither spoke. Finally, the monk said, "Do you know why patience is so hard?" Aya looked up. Because waiting feels like doing nothing? He smiled. No, my child. Because waiting demands trust. And trust requires surrender. Aya felt her chest tighten. The monk's words were like soft rain. They didn't strike. They soaked in. That night, she couldn't sleep. She sat outside under a sky full of stars, listening to the quiet rhythm of her breath. She realized waiting wasn't the absence of action. It was a presence, a deeper participation with life itself. The next morning, she placed one of her pots outside her hut beneath a single tree. She didn't sell it. She didn't keep it. She just let it be. Over the years, wind and rain touched it, cracking its surface, fading its color. Yet somehow, it grew more beautiful, as if time had painted patience upon it. Waiting isn't a punishment, it's a teacher. It teaches us to listen when nothing speaks, to grow roots when nothing blooms, to trust the unseen when everything feels uncertain. Patience isn't waiting for the storm to pass. It's learning to dance in the rain without needing the sun to return. And sometimes, the things we long for most arrive only when we are quiet enough to hear their footsteps. If this story found a quiet place in your heart, pause for a moment. Take a breath and let the silence between words remind you that you're exactly where you're meant to be. Thank you for waiting with us. This is Mind Lantern Stories, where stories don't rush, they breathe. Thank you for watching the whole video. Please give me a subscription, a like, and a comment, so I have the motivation to share good stories with you. Thank you. See you again.